The scream hit first. It wasn't loud, more like a gasp that caught fire. By the time heads turned, a woman in 3C was already standing, one hand raised, voice slicing through the cabin. "Control your child!" The aisle lights flickered as a flight attendant rushed over. A man's coffee spilled. Someone muttered, "Oh my God." And at the center of it all, a little girl was crying, not the bratty kind of cry, but the deep, shocked sob of a child who didn't understand what just happened. Her mother, Sarah Mitchell, held her close, voice trembling. She didn't mean to, please, she just kicked the seat. The other woman, prim hair, pressed blouse, pearls that looked like armor, stepped closer. "She assaulted me," she said coldly, "and if you don't handle her, I will." No one realized, not yet, how close "I will" would come to meaning something far darker. The cabin went quiet. Even the engines seemed to hush. Then came the voice, calm, smooth, steady over the intercom. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking." The passengers looked up. Sarah froze. That voice. She hadn't heard it in 7 years. 3 weeks earlier, Sarah Mitchell had always hated flying. But this time, she told herself, it was for something good, a fresh start. She held Emma's tiny hand as they walked down the jet bridge, both clutching paper cups of orange juice. Emma's curls bounced with every step, and despite everything, Sarah smiled. They were leaving behind a small town and a smaller life. New city, new job, new school. She'd worked too hard to let fear stop her. "Window seat, Mommy?" Emma asked. "You got it, baby." She slid into the row, smoothing her daughter's hair, feeling a flicker of peace. That's when she heard the heels. Click, click, click. A woman was already scolding a flight attendant before even reaching her seat. "Yes, I specifically requested the front. I don't do turbulence. And make sure no animals are near me. I have allergies." The flight attendant smiled her practiced smile. "Of course, ma'am." "You're in 3C, Sarah glanced up. 3C. Right in front of them. The woman turned and gave a thin, disapproving smile. "Hello?" Sarah nodded politely. "Hi." The woman's eyes darted to Emma. "Oh, a child." Her tone made the word sound like a disease. "Her name's Emma," Sarah said softly. "She's very well behaved." "We'll see," the woman replied, buckling herself in with military precision. Her name tag read Karen Stewart. Sarah didn't know it yet, but that name would soon dominate headlines and nightmares alike. At first, the flight was peaceful. Clouds rolled by. Emma drew hearts on the condensation of her window. Sarah even allowed herself to close her eyes for a moment. That calm lasted 38 minutes. A soft thump. A small shoe against the back of 3C. Karen turned around so fast it startled Emma. "Excuse me," she hissed. "We don't kick seats on this plane." Sarah blinked awake. "I'm so sorry," she was stretching her legs. "It won't happen again," Karen gave a tight smile. It better not. For a while, silence returned. But you could feel her watching. Every movement, every whisper, like she owned the air around her. Then the muttering started. "She's taking up too much space. People really shouldn't fly with kids if they can't control them." Sarah tried to ignore it. She'd dealt with worse. Hospital whispers, judgmental neighbors. Still, it stung. When the flight attendant offered drinks, Karen snapped, "Don't pour over me. I don't trust you not to spill." The attendant's smile faltered. Emma whispered, "Mommy, that lady's mean." "I know, sweetheart," Sarah said softly. "Just keep coloring." But the peace didn't hold. Karen stood again, pressing the call button so hard it beeped twice. "This child keeps touching my seat," she announced loudly. The attendant approached. "Ma'am, I haven't seen—" "I don't care what you've seen," Karen snapped. "Do something." Sarah's cheeks burned. "Ma'am, she hasn't—" Karen's hand shot out, pointing at Emma. "You're raising a brat. People like you ruin civilized spaces." Gasps spread. Someone whispered, "Oh, come on, she's a kid." Karen ignored it. "I'll handle it myself," she muttered, and before anyone could react, she turned and grabbed Emma's wrist. "Hey." Sarah lunged forward, yanking her daughter back. "Don't touch her!" The aisle erupted, passengers shouting, phones raised, one man trying to step between them. Karen's face twisted with fury. "I'll have you removed from this plane." Sarah's heart was pounding so hard she could barely speak. "Please, just stop. She's a child." A commotion near the front. Someone calling for the captain. Emma was sobbing, clutching her arm. Sarah wrapped her up, trembling, whispering, "You're okay, baby, you're okay." The chaos stretched like forever. Then, through the static of the intercom, came that calm, grounded voice again, deep, steady, and commanding. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. Please remain seated." Something in that tone quieted the entire plane. Even Karen froze. Sarah's stomach turned cold. No, it couldn't be. But when the cockpit door opened and the man stepped into the aisle, her worst and strangest fear became real. Tall, uniform perfect, eyes sharp yet wounded from old memories. The captain didn't look at Karen first. He looked at Emma, then at Sarah. Recognition hit him like lightning. His voice broke for just a second. "Sarah?" Her breath caught. The color drained from her face. Passengers watched, confused, sensing something far deeper than a mid-air dispute. The man walking toward her wasn't just the captain. He was the father of the child she'd kept secret for 7 years. And somewhere behind that cockpit door, justice and truth were waiting to take off. For a long second, no one spoke. The cabin was a portrait of silence, faces frozen mid-breath, the hum of the engines, the only sound holding everything together. Captain James Carter stood in the aisle, one hand resting on the seat back, the other trembling so subtly no one but Sarah noticed. His eyes found Emma, small, frightened, her wrist streaked red where Karen's nails had dug in. That sight broke him. Sarah's lips parted. "James," she whispered, voice barely air. He hadn't heard that name from her mouth in 7 years, not since the night she'd left without a note. Only a baby blanket folded on the couch. He swallowed hard, jaw tight. "Is she?"
Sarah nodded, tears filling her eyes.
"She's okay. She's just scared." Emma's voice tiny and shaking. "Mommy, who is he?" Before Sarah could answer, Karen scoffed, loud enough for the entire front row to hear. "This is absurd. I've been assaulted by that woman's child, and now what? You're all turning this into a soap opera?" Every eye turned to her. She smoothed her blouse like she was brushing off dust. "I'll have your jobs, all of you. I'm the president of my HOA. I know how to deal with people who think rules don't apply to them." James didn't raise his voice. He didn't have to. "Ma'am, sit down." Something in his tone wasn't just authority, it was finality. Karen hesitated, then laughed sharply. "You can't order me." "Sit down," it wasn't shouted. It was calm, cutting, absolute. And for the first time, she faltered. The attendants hovered nearby, waiting for his cue. James knelt by Emma's seat, eyes softening. "Hey there, sweetheart. What's your name?" She sniffled. "Emma," he smiled gently. "That's a beautiful name." Her eyes, big and searching, drifted to his wrist, the small metal bracelet he wore. It had her mother's initials. Emma blinked. "Mommy has that too." James froze. Slowly his gaze shifted to Sarah. She didn't look away this time. A tear slipped down her cheek. "I didn't know how to tell you," she whispered. "Back then you were being deployed and I..." He shook his head slightly. "Not here. Not now." But his eyes said everything. Karen was still standing, now recording on her phone. "I'm documenting this. This is harassment. That child attacked me and this pilot is unprofessional." James straightened, his posture a wall of composure. "Ma'am, you assaulted a minor. This flight is now diverting for an emergency landing." Gasps rippled through the cabin. "You can't do that," she snapped. "I just did," he said evenly. "You've endangered a passenger and disrupted flight safety. Sit down and fasten your seatbelt." For the first time, her confidence cracked. The murmurs from passengers weren't on her side anymore. Phones were filming. Someone whispered, "That poor kid." Karen's face flushed. "You people don't understand. I'm respected in my community." "Not anymore," someone muttered from row 6. Sarah held Emma tightly, whispering comfort as James gave instructions to the flight crew. Through the overhead speakers came his calm voice, professional but heavy with emotion beneath the surface. "Ladies and gentlemen, due to a passenger incident, we'll be landing shortly. Please remain seated." The plane touched down with a rough jolt. The usual applause never came. Red and blue lights flashed beyond the windows. Paramedics, security, and police waited on the tarmac. As the doors opened, officers approached Karen, who was now pale and trembling. "This is a misunderstanding," she cried, clinging to her purse. "You can't just—" They didn't let her finish. Passengers watched as she was escorted off, her phone still recording until it was taken from her hand. The once commanding woman now looked small, swallowed by the flashing lights. James stayed behind, kneeling again by Emma. "You did nothing wrong, okay? What she did was not your fault." Emma's bottom lip quivered. "You're really my daddy?" He froze. Every breath in the cabin seemed to stop. Sarah's hand covered her mouth, tears streaming. James finally smiled, small, aching, real. "Yeah, sweetheart," he said softly. "I am." She launched forward, wrapping her arms around his neck. It was clumsy and desperate and perfect. For a moment, the captain, the man who had carried 1,000 passengers safely through storms, just closed his eyes and held his daughter for the first time. Later that evening, the three of them sat in a quiet hospital room. Emma slept, her small hand still clutching a teddy bear an officer had given her. The news was already everywhere. HOA president assaults child mid-flight. Videos, witness statements, interviews. The world had turned on Karen overnight. James sat across from Sarah, exhaustion in every line of his face. "You should have told me," he said quietly. "I know," she whispered. "You were leaving for duty. I was scared you'd feel trapped." "I would have felt honored," he said, voice cracking. "You and her, you were all I ever wanted." Sarah looked down, guilt twisting her voice. "I didn't know how to start again. I thought I was protecting her." He leaned forward. "Then let's start now." The words hung there, fragile, hopeful. By morning, Karen Stewart's life had collapsed. Her face was everywhere. Viral videos, late-night talk jokes, online outrage. Her HOA board voted to remove her. Her husband refused to speak publicly. Her neighbors picketed her home. The woman who once enforced rules with pride was now drowning in the ones she broke herself. Meanwhile, Sarah and James sat side by side in the hospital cafeteria, coffee gone cold. Emma was fine, shaken, but healing. She'd told a nurse, "When I grow up, I want to fly planes." "Like my daddy," James smiled when Sarah told him that. "She's brave," he said softly. "Gets that from you?" Sarah laughed, tired but genuine. "I think she gets it from both of us." 2 weeks later, the story faded from headlines, but the memory didn't. Karen faced charges and community service. Her authority stripped, her HOA dissolved. The same people she'd once bossed around now ran things themselves. Sarah, James, and Emma started spending weekends together. Park picnics, flight simulator games, rebuilding something fragile and real. Sarah often caught herself thinking about that day, about how a single act of cruelty exposed everything, pain, truth, and somehow a chance at redemption. She looked at James one evening as Emma ran across the yard laughing. "It's strange," she said. "If that day hadn't happened, we might never have found our way back." He nodded. "Some turbulence," he said, "is meant to change your course." Sarah smiled. "And some people," she added softly, "mistake power for purpose until both are taken away." She looked at Emma twirling beneath the sunset, the child who'd unknowingly brought them home. Karen lost everything trying to prove her power. But the real strength that day wasn't authority or control. It was a child's courage and a father's promise that came 7 years late.